Hey there, and welcome back to Code and Context with MR. I am your host Mahesh Range, and I'm glad you are here for episode 2. If you haven't listened to episode 1 yet, you might want to check it out. We dove into why, even with AI, the project timeline is still the same. So, today we are going to step further and we are getting right to the question. Everyone is asking, how do you compete with AI and become irreplaceable in the next 5 years? Think about it. AI can already write code, fix bugs, and generate test cases, and many other things. It can even spin up a basic app and connect it to an API and get it deployed to the cloud. So, if the machine can handle all of that, what is left for us? I'll tell you what, all the stuff that really matters, the parts AI isn't good at yet, understanding the why, the trade offs, designing for scale, and making sure a solution actually works in a messy real world environment. Okay, so let me give you a real concrete example to show you what I mean. A few months ago, I saw a demo for a new AI application built to support a specific sales group. It looked great. The UI was built with React, the tech stack was modern, everything looked great. As a standalone application, it was a fantastic piece of work. But when it came to real world use, it was a mess. Users were already living in another application, so they had to log in into multiple places just to use this new one. The correct solution was never to create a separate app at all. It should have been an API integration or backend services that seamlessly working with the existing app instead of a separate frame. And that's when it became crystal clear to me. AI can give you the what, the code for the UI, the API, the database, but it is struggle with the why and the how, like the strategic decisions, the user context, the big picture, and that is basically what it means to be an architect. So here's the takeaway. If your only job is to write code today, you're competing directly with an AI that can do it faster. But if you can see the big picture, how all the pieces connect, what is the real world risk are, and how it actually impact the business and the people using it, then you are operating on a whole different level. I'll give you one more example. For instance, let's say you are building a healthcare app. AI can generate all the components you might need, the login form, the appointment scheduler, the database schema. But can it think through things like HIPAA or GXP compliance based on the features you are building? Can it decide on a failover strategy if AWS goes down in one region? Probably not. That is where your architect level thinking comes in. If you are a developer, let's see how we can start small. So, here's my simple message. The future isn't just about being a developer, it's about being a developer architect. Someone who can not only write code but also design solutions that actually last and work in the real world. Now, you don't need a fancy title to start, you can begin small today. The next time you are about to build a new feature, just ask your simple questions like, how is this going to scale if your traffic suddenly doubles? And what happened if the external API we are developing on goes down? Do we have a fallback plan? Is this a simple solution or am I making it too complicated? So that's the mindset change that makes a biggest impact. So let's shift gears and let's talk about the difference between a traditional developer and what I'm calling a future developer. Traditionally, developers wrote the code and architects sat at level above and designed the system. It was a nice, clean divide, but the line, it's getting blurred every single day. I have worked at a few startups, and let me tell you, everyone wears multiple hats. One day you are fixing a bug, and the next you are figuring out the database strategy, and later you are working at cloud cost. Because, well, if you don't, no one else will. And even in bigger companies, I've seen developers expected to know more than just their features. You ask questions like, hey, if we move this service to the cloud, what happened to latency? Or will this scale if we roll it out to globally? So now put AI on top of all that. The AI can write chunk of code faster than any of us. So your real value isn't just how fast you can code anymore. It is what you choose to build and how you design the solution. It's like this. Anybody can get an AI to generate a login form, but deciding whether that login should integrate with enterprise SSO or how to handle user data securely, that's the kind of thinking that set you apart. So let's talk about why this shift to an architect mindset matters so much in 2025. Look, AI is catching up and it is catching up fast. It can write crude apps, convert APIs, and even suggest optimization. It is impressive stuff, but here's the key differences. AI doesn't know the why, it has no clue about the real world trade offs, the business constraints, or the overarching goals. It is like having a super smart intern who can code the whole day but doesn't understand the bigger picture of the company. That's why you, as a developer, need to start thinking bigger. You have to start asking those architect level questions. What is the real goal of this feature and how will it scale when traffic spikes? Or like what other system will this touch and could it cause a ripple effect? Are we creating a dependency that will look us in later? Or are we just reinventing the wheel here? So those are the questions we should ask. And let me give you a couple of quick stories to show you exactly what I mean. In one project, we were building an analytic dashboard. The dev team got super excited and over engineering the whole thing, like custom caching, a complex query builder. It looked amazing in our dev environment. But here's the problem, the business only needed a weekly report, not a real time dashboard. We wasted weeks of effort solving a problem no one actually had, all because we didn't ask the right question upfront. How fresh data this data really need to be? And here's another one. We had to pick a messaging system for a large data streaming project. On paper, Kafka was technically the best choice, but our team had deep expertise and integration already in place for MuleSoft. Going with MuleSoft wasn't the sexiest choice, but it allowed us to go live in week instead of month. That was the right decision for the business. That is the solution thinking right there. It is not about what is the technically coolest thing we can build. It's about what is the best and most efficient way to solve the problem. All right, I want to circle back to AI for a minute. The stuff it can do is incredible. Seriously, it blows your mind sometimes. But let's not kid ourselves. It's not creative. It's built on patterns. It can suggest things, but it can't actually invent a new solution. Think about in this way. I have seen team ask AI to spin up microservices. And sure, it will generate a ton of code in a few seconds. But here's the twist. It can't tell you whether microservice architecture is even the right choice for your app. That decision that's come from understanding your users, your business goals, and your constraint is stuff you can't just feed into a model. One of the core ideas in innovation is that it doesn't come from repeating patterns. It comes from breaking them, experimenting, and asking those really hard questions. That's where we as humans really shines. I remember a couple of days ago, I was working with a mid-size e-commerce company. The whole team was hype about microservices. Every blog post, every conference talk made it sound like the only way to build a modern app. We were all ready to split the platform into 15 to 20 services. But when we look a step back and look at the actual need, we realized the traffic wasn't huge. The app had maybe a few thousand daily active users, so most features were tightly coupled and the team was only 6 developers. If we had gone to microservices, we could have added a ton of unnecessary complexity like service discovery, inter-service communication, distributed login, and new CI/CD pipelines. all for a system that didn't need it. Instead, we went with a modular like monolith, one single deployment unit, but with a clear boundaries between the module. This gave us a faster deployment and way easier debugging and much lower operational overhead. The business just care about the shipping features quickly, not about showing off our architecture diagram. And honestly, if we had gone microservices, we would have spent months untangling dependencies instead of delivering real value. That was the moment it really clicked for me. Sometimes the simplest choice is the smartest one. The big takeaway is this: AI can speed up the how you build something, but it can't guide the what or the why. That is still our job. All right, let's talk about the final piece of the puzzle: breadth of knowledge, how that matters in AI driven world. I have found the developers who have a broad understanding of multiple languages, frameworks, and tools, not just deep expertise or in one. I believe they are more valuable. Why? Because sometimes the best solutions to a problem isn't the one you are most comfortable with. Maybe it's a quick Python script or no code automation or even using something like AWS step function to tie everything together. And here's the secret that architects know: knowing when not to build something that is a superpower. That is the kind of thinking we all need to level up. It's not just about diving deeper into one tech stack, it is about knowing enough about many stacks so you can pick the right one for the job. Because let's be honest, if all you know is Salesforce, every problem is going to look like it needed a Salesforce solution. I have seen it happens, but maybe what is the project really needed was a simple low code tool like no code connector or even just a shared Google sheet that everyone could access. This is one of the real example. A few years ago, I was working on a small internal tool for tracking project approval. One of the developer was ready to build a full React frontend with the Node.js API. I suggested we try simple Google Sheet with an app script backend first. The team initially rolled their eyes, but we had a working prototype in just one day. It solved the problem, required zero deployment, and gave us time to think about the real needs before we build anything heavy. So, the lesson here is simple: breadth gives you perspective, and depth gives you confidence. And when you have both, you stop being just a coder and start being a true problem solver. So, I believe mindset shift is the key to success. And so, let's talk about the big question: how do you actually start making this mindset shift? Here's what I've learned over the years. First, zoom out. Don't just focus on your little task. Step back and understand the bigger business context. I am guilty of this myself. I once worked on a feature where I was obsessed with optimizing a search algorithm, only to find out that business didn't even need a real-time search. Weekly batch processing was totally fine. Zooming out first would have saved me a ton of time. And second, ask why a lot. Why this approach? Why this tool? Why now? I once joined a project where the team picked a brand new framework just because it was trendy. I asked, why not something that's already in our stack? We ended up avoiding months of unnecessary learning and got to production faster. And third, learn to trade off. Every choices has trade-offs: performance versus cost, speed uh, versus quality, build versus buy. I have been in situation where a super optimized solutions look great on paper, but the cost to maintain it would have been insane. Choosing a slightly simpler approach actually served the business better. And finally, get used to saying it depends. Architecture isn't about finding a single perfect answer. The trick is knowing the trade offs and choosing the best option for your situation. So, here's the bonus tip that I swear by: talk to people outside engineering, talk to designers, marketers, and most importantly, your users. I remember shadowing a customer support team for a day. Just listening to how they handling edge cases completely change how I design a backend services. And one last thing, watch the people who already think this way. Find senior developer who ask why before they even touch the keyboard. Observe them, ask questions, and start adopting that mindset yourself. Okay, so to sum it all up, AI might eventually write better code than you, but here's the thing, it can't think better than you. The future of development isn't just about typing out code, it's about crafting solutions that actually work in the real world. Think of AI as a co pilot. It can help you write faster, catch bugs, and even generate tests. But if you wanted to be the captain of your career, you need to learn how to fly the whole plane. Not just the code, but the context, the trade off, the people, and the system, the why behind the what. And the best part, you don't need a fancy title to start thinking like architecture. Ask a bigger question, see how it fits into the bigger picture. That's how you future-proof your career by stopping shrink like a developer who just build feature and starting to think like an architect who builds system. All right, that is a wraps for the episode of Code and Construct with MR. But I want to leave you with this: AI isn't replacing you; it's replacing the version of you that only write code. The version of you that can think like an architect. That's your unfair advantage. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I hope this sparks some thought for your next project. Next week, we are diving into another hot topic: the true cost of AI and no code platforms for newcomers. We will talk about the evolution of low code, no code tools and what that means for junior developers and career changes. If you enjoy this, be sure to follow the podcast so you don't miss it. Until then, keep building, keep learning, and most importantly, keep thinking big. Thank you.